James, so they say there's two different types of speakers. Funny speakers, unemployed speakers. But today, there's nothing funny about this speech, because I think trying to live your best life is one of the most important existential questions we should always be asking ourselves. So I started last week with a very simple thought experiment where you're thinking about yourself near the end of your life, and you're looking back. And Ennio had a point, he's not here today, but he had a point. He said, I think he said something about I'd work less and I would be happier. And I think that that's a pretty common reaction. If you look at the next 3 months of my life, and then you told me I would have some illness and I had 3 months to live, I would live it very, very different than if I didn't, if I had another 40 years or whatever it is. So I think it's a good reminder of what's important every time we have these little thought experiments. So when I think of that same thing, the thing that scares me is regret. And regret to me means untapped potential, whatever your potential is in life. So therefore, living the perfect life for me means fulfilling my potential. But it's up to me to decide what that potential is. So the great Greek writer and philosopher Nikos Kazantzakis, he famously advised us, leave death nothing but a burnt-out castle. And I absolutely love that. It's one of my favorite quotes. It means live a full life and don't have any regrets at the end of this. But I love the fact this ties in with our first speech about the lions and the evolution. Let's take this philosophy to its natural conclusion. The great Charles Darwin obviously changed the world with his Origin of Species. And he put the final nail in the religious theory of how we got here. So he spent 4 years as a young man. He sailed all around the world, and his theory was kind of germinating during his travels and what he saw, especially when he was in the Galapagos. And then he came back, and it was still kind of in his head, and it took him a few years, and eventually he put it all down on paper. But his wife was a lovely woman. She was very religious. He didn't want to offend her. So he took his manuscript, he stuck it in the drawer, and it just collected dust. Now, while it was sitting in that drawer, he spent the next 10 years writing his magnus opus, and it was on Cirripede, which are also known as barnacles. Even today, 150 years later, this is still the worldwide authority on Cirripede. Still used today, his research. In case you just missed what I said, I'll say that one more time. James, he spent 10 years of his best life researching barnacles. I don't know about you, that's probably not what I want to spend the best years of my life. So, he wasn't playing with his young kids as they were growing up. He wasn't being with his adoring wife. He wasn't seeing friends and having a good time. He was stuck in this research, all-encompassing a decade of his life researching these things. And it was only when Malthus independently discovered evolution that he was persuaded to actually publish his book that had been sitting in the drawer collecting dust. But he got so much pushback and hatred that he basically retreated into his more introverted lifestyle. He just retreated home, and he didn't even address the critics. So it was left to Thomas Huxley, the great British biologist, who was an adamant supporter of his theories, and he became known as Darwin's bulldog, because he was the bulldog fighting the critics and trying to save evolution before it became much more established. So, Darwin famously said, a man who dares to waste an hour of his life waste an hour of his time has not discovered the value of life. Now, in some ways, that's certainly, like Nikos' quote, Darwin did leave nothing but a burnt-out candle. When he died, he changed humanity's history of thought, but it isn't what I would consider an enviable life. It's an austere, grinding life, consisting solely of the mind. So, we have quite a problem. What is the solution? And I think the solution is, there is no easy answer. When I was a teenager, one of my best friends, Alex, gave me a gift. It was a beautiful framed picture, and it had the Chinese characters, and on the bottom it had the translation. And it said, work hard today to create tomorrow. And I thought, that's kind of cool. And then he showed me what he got himself, and his just had one character, and on the bottom it said samurai. And I thought, man, I'd rather be a samurai. I don't want to work hard today, tomorrow. And it's funny, but that's the answer today, isn't it? You can't be the samurai today without putting in the work yesterday to become that samurai. Just like if you want to be the samurai tomorrow, you have to put in the work and work hard today to create the tomorrow that you want. But you don't want to be that person that flourishes without enjoying the small moments of happiness along the way. No billionaire on his deathbed ever wished for more money, more prestige, more fame, or more power. He only wished for more time. So, I want you all to flourish on your journeys of life. Aim for those big, awesome things. Run those marathons. Climb the 7 summits. Ken's not here, but obviously he got his PhD a long time ago. He's now a professor. You know, write that book, son. You already done it. Awesome. Do those big things. Become a millionaire entrepreneur. You know, if that's what you want to go for. But along the way, like I mentioned before, living the utopian life means micro pleasures among macro successes. So you need to enjoy those small pleasures that come day after day as you pursue your larger goals. And you need to enjoy as many of those small things every day. After all, we've evolved to adapt to big successes, and the pleasure of the big successes rarely lasts. Don't be that person at the end of his life with regrets. So Benjamin Franklin said it best. He was such an amazing man. Normally when you read a biography of a famous person, they're often disappointments because you know the best of them and then their humanity is exposed in their biography. If you read Benjamin Franklin's, you're even more blown away by all his other achievements, not just the political achievements. He said, happiness consists more in the small conveniences of pleasures that occur every day than in the great pieces of good fortune that happen that's seldom to a man in the course of his life. So he's kind of saying the same thing about the micro pleasures and the macro success. Remember, living a utopian life means you need micro pleasures among macro successes. Thank you.